The Supreme Court capped off a week of landmark decisions yesterday by limiting the EPA's power to curb carbon dioxide emissions. By a 6-3 vote, the court ruled the Clean Air Act, first established in 1963, does not give the environmental agency the authority to regulate greenhouse gases from power plants that contribute to global warming. Writing for the conservative majority, Chief Justice John Roberts conceded that even though regulating a transition away from coal would be a, quote, sensible solution to the crisis of the day, the EPA does not have the authority to do that. In her dissent, Justice Elena Kagan condemned the court for appointing itself, quote, the decision maker on climate policy, said she could not think of many things more frightening. President Biden also blasted the ruling, which experts say could hurt the White House plan to cut greenhouse gas emissions in half by the end of the decade. For more on this, let's bring in CNBC's Brian Sullivan. Sully, good to see you this morning. How's the business world reacting to this?
Well, this is a big blow potentially to the clean energy agenda, which, by the way, could be a major economic driver as well, Willie. I mean, let's not forget that there are trillions of dollars globally that are looking to be invested in clean energy alternatives, wind, solar, hydro, you name it. This could be, not will be, but it could be a blow to that. It also may be a more wide-sweeping decision with regards to what they call the major questions doctrine. I'll get to that in just one second. But the decision, to your point, was 6-3 and effectively said that unless Congress expressly authorizes something in the text of a law, that regulatory agencies, whether in this case it is the Environmental Protection Agency, are not allowed to interpret and change policy that will have, to the basically the court's summation, widespread sort of policy and economic reactions. Why this matters for the remainder of the economy is that if you take this concept of this major questions doctrine that Chief Justice Roberts is enacting here, Willie, you can stretch that out well beyond environment, well beyond this case, and say that agencies, whether it's the Securities and Exchange Commission, the FCC, the FTC, have just been widely reduced in their ability to create rules.
Yeah, and it raises the question of what's the EPA there for then, if not for this. Gene, you're writing about this in your new column this morning. You call this ruling from the Supreme Court utterly catastrophic for the environment. What are the implications? What's the fallout of this?
Well, look, the fallout is that the Supreme Court is limiting the ability of the EPA to do what Congress told it to do, what it's supposed to do under the Clean Air Act, under the Toxic Substances Act, under the legislation that the environmental legislation that's been passed over many years, which is to clean the environment and to get pollutants out of the air and out of the water. And what the court, I believe, is trying to do here is a matter of ideology more than policy, because it's trying to sort of cut what it calls what conservatives call the administrative state down to size, and to say Congress really needs to legislate stuff like this and not leave it to the agency to do. I respond, good luck with that. I mean, if the EPA rules are developed, by experts and scientists and people who know the data and this and that, and good luck trying to get Congress to go through that sort of process and come out with anything that's meaningful or intelligent. But a question for Sully, which is, in this case, the rules in question, which were kind of moot anyway because they were Obama-era rules that never went into effect, and then Trump-era rules never went into effect, and there really wasn't anything concrete for the court to decide here, but they decided it anyhow. But the whole point of what the Obama administration was trying to do was to get these existing power plants to switch from coal to natural gas and cleaner fuels. Isn't that happening faster, actually, than the rules would have made it happen, just because of market forces?
Well, I think you're right, Gene. Yeah, and I think that's one aspect to this. And I know that the headline for the Supreme Court seems pretty grim. And to your point, these laws actually were never enacted. In fact, they were based off a Nixon-era law that also was never enacted. But I think the court was trying to make a bigger point here. But yes, you are correct. Market forces are working to say, guess what? With ESG, environmental social governance investing, we don't want coal. So the Wall Street money is not going to go there anyway. So the market is saying, you know what, these technologies ultimately are going to go away. They are bad for the planet. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put all of our Wall Street capital, global capital, into things like either natural gas, maybe nuclear, we'll see, Gene, wind, solar, etc. And the irony of it is right now is that coal is being used far more by China and India. We're seeing Europe kind of bring a little bit of coal back, probably in the short term, because of the Putin's insane war and their natural gas flows. But you are correct. The market will hopefully correct these dynamics. The one thing I would add, though, is that if you expand, and I'm not a lawyer, I do have a law degree, but I'm not an attorney. If you expand that major questions doctrine, guys, you could get to a point where you could say, what power do these agencies have? The SEC is trying to limit climate disclosures or force companies to put their climate disclosures in their public releases. Is that null and void? Is a cap and trade system created by the EPA or other agencies? Is that now DOA because of this? This is going to have a lot more sweeping impact potentially than just this one case.
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly a continuation of the conservative theory that very many branches of government, agencies of government, don't need to be there in the first place, and can they undermine them as much as possible. Sally, while we've got you here, I think this is day one of the second half of the year. The first half of the year was,
thank goodness,
pretty dismal for investors. What are you looking ahead to the second half? There's just been a report from the Eurozone saying that inflation has hit a record high of 8.6%, which doesn't suggest to me that we're kicking off the second half on particularly cheerful news. But what are you looking at? How's this second half going, and how's that inflation number doing?
You're right, we're not. But it's Friday. We're heading into the 4th of July weekend. So I don't want to be the Grim Reaper. I want to be a little bit optimistic as we head into the long weekend, guys. And we call it. That's right. That's right. Hot dogs. And we're going to have sleep also. And
right.
Willie and Gene, and you guys all know what we're talking about. Sleep is key on these long weekends.
Yes.
All right. So here's what we're looking for. We're looking for the Federal Reserve. It's sleep. We're looking for the Federal Reserve to pivot. Right now, the Federal Reserve, the nation's central bank, has been raising interest rates. We know that. They're trying to slow the economy, effectively pump the brakes on that huge truck that is the U.S. economy. They want to slow it down without, driving into a ditch, which would be a recession. What we're looking for is that slight pivot, probably toward the end of the year, where the Federal Reserve indicates to the American people and to Wall Street that it is going to either slow or stop its aggressive pace of interest rate hikes. That's going to be sort of the key to everything. It was the worst first half to a year for the stock market since Ryan O'Neal and Ali McGraw starred in Love Story in 1970. So that's that. How about that, Willie? There you go. That's how bad. I don't even know what that movie is. I just Wikipedia'd it. That's how bad the first half of the year was. Here's the upside. Here's the upside. And hopefully a love story in the end is that I like to think that as the market has gone down 25-30% this year, things can only look up longer term. You're welcome.
And that's a love story in and of itself. CNBC's Brian Sullivan trying to keep it positive as we head into the weekend. Sully, always great to see you, my friend. Thanks so much. Thanks.